snowy morning in 1972, 22-year-old Sotria Kritsonis sat at her bus stop in Seattle, Washington, adjusting her knit cap against the cold. The hat actually still felt pretty weird on her head because just a few days earlier, she had cut her brown hair super short. In fact, she'd deliberately worn this big hat to hide her haircut because this would make the reveal to her friends at school that much better. She glanced up Rainer Avenue for any sign of her bus, but there wasn't one. The city's public transportation system was all out of whack that day because of the weather. She'd already missed her first class of the day because of this bus, and now she was in danger of missing her second class. That's when she heard the beep of a car horn, and a pale yellow Volkswagen Beetle rolled up to the curb right in front of her. Tria had to squint through the snow, but she could see the silhouette of a man and kind of waving her over. Curious, she walked up to the now open window and leaned in. He was a good-looking guy in his 20s. He explained that he'd actually been driving on Rainer Ave for a while. He hadn't seen a bus in a long time. He offered to give Sotria a ride to her school. This is the 1970s, and hitchhiking at the time was pretty common. She agreed to get in because she knew it was her best chance at making it to school for her second class, and she was freezing. Tria sat back in the seat, and as she did, she looked out her window at the familiar route passing by. When she heard him turn on his blinker, he was preparing to turn right. And this struck Sotria as odd because, as she had explained to him, her school was a straight shot down Rainer Ave, and saw they were about to merge onto Interstate 5, which was definitely not the way to Sotria's school. She opened her mouth, but he cut her off, and he looked at her and he said, "It's a terrible idea to take a ride from a stranger." The man kept on talking, but Sotria was not listening at all. Instead, she was fixated on what he was doing with his right hand. He was fishing for something underneath his seat. Without taking her eyes off of this man, she traced with her hand and felt for the door handle, but she couldn't feel it. And then she turned and realized there was no door handle. It had been removed. Just then, the man stopped rummaging around underneath his seat. Whatever he was looking for, he had found it. But then, something strange happened. The man's face changed from determined and almost cruel to confused. The man told Sotria to take off her hat. With trembling hands, she did as she was instructed, although she had no idea why he was asking. And when the hat was off her head, the man looked shocked, and he dropped whatever it was he had found back under his seat. There was a long, tense silence, and when the man finally spoke, he just said, "Why did you cut your hair?" The man immediately got off the highway and drove fast to Sotria's school. When they got there, he opened up the door for her and told Sotria to get out and said she was lucky. A few years later, in 1975, Sotria was watching TV when she saw a familiar face come onto the screen. It was the man who had given her a ride, being led into a courtroom in handcuffs. Sotria dropped everything and turned up the volume, and what she heard made her numb with horror. Because the newscaster was saying that this man who had given her a ride was a suspected serial killer accused of murdering dozens of young women who he would lure into his pale yellow Volkswagen Beetle and then bludgeon them to death with a crowbar or tire iron. And he had a very specific type when it came to identifying his victims. They were young women who all had long brown hair. This man's name was Ted Bundy.